joined by one of the true pioneers in the video game business. Bing Gordon is the co-founder of the industry's biggest video game publisher, Electronic Arts, and also serves as the company's chief creative officer. But perhaps one of the roles that is closest to his heart these days is inspiring young minds to get involved in the business through a class he teaches at the University of Southern California, all about the video game business. Hey, Bing, how are you?
Good. And you've been to the class,
I have.
Geoff.
It was a fun time. So how are the kids doing? They're doing well?
We're right in a really challenging part because they're trying to take one feature of each of their projects and define it in 5 slides in enough detail that investors can decide whether to invest, potential customers can decide whether they want to play it, and potential employees will understand how to build it.
It's great that you've got these kids who want to get into the business. You're there to sort of tell them about the business, and you've been in the business so long. I wanted to ask you, there so many kids want to get in the business, but I think they still feel that maybe video game design isn't this noble artistic calling like film studies is or something like that. That's starting to change, I think. But what do you think it's going to take to get people to respect the industry on the level of some of the other art forms out there?
Oh, the way to respect games as an art form is to grow up with them.
Right.
So Henry Jenkins of MIT Comparative Media points out that jazz, film, and comics were all unbelievably disrespected when they started, and it turns out they're kind of America's gift to the world. And video games had that disrespect, especially in the 80s.
Right.
We were the Rodney Dangerfield of media in the 80s. But now anybody who's 35 has had to make, or younger, has had to make a specific lifestyle choice not to play games. So they kind of know that it's legit. People create friendships in games, and they waste time in games just as they do in all other forms of entertainment.
Right. Huh. One thing I wanted to ask you about is you're at EA, a company that's growing by leaps and bounds. You got, 6,000 employees there or something crazy like that now with tons of creative people. I wanted to ask you about the BioWare Pandemic, merger or partnership last week, which is kind of an interesting new business model about the developer, this mega developer, which wants to stay completely independent and maybe hire a publisher for distribution. Do you think they're going to meet with success under that model?
There's a lot of forms of running businesses.
Right.
And Pandemic and BioWare are great creators.
Yeah.
I'm especially a fan of BioWare. Those guys, I'm on their mailing list. I find out about their new games.
Right.
And they've been consistent over time. They're really well managed. They're really smart. And, they've got a lot of options on how they monetize themselves.
Right.
And hooking up with another studio and with a business partner, it's only really interesting because it hasn't been done much in the games business.
Right.
But other media businesses find all sorts of clever ways to get equity capital into their business.
Now, one thing we'll see about EA is that, you guys keep doing a lot of games every year. A lot of people, this year, I think especially, have been criticizing EA for, doing too many sequels. It's like, sequel after sequel, not doing enough original properties. You guys do some original games, and given your size, some people say you should do a lot more. Is that a fair criticism, do you think, of EA?
Well, it's not analytically based.
Right.
So since 1990, EA averages coming out with about 5 new IPs per year.
Right.
And, about a third of them break even.
Right.
Which is not unusual for all media business. I mean,
right.
Entertainment's risky. So about a third of them are new. The interesting thing about our business is we've been able to do ongoing sequels of franchises that consumers actually like.
Right.
In the movie business, when you sequel something, the rule of thumb is it sells half as well as the previous version.
Right.
And we've been able to reinvent engines and game mechanics with things like NC2A football or Tiger Woods with Game Face and the analog swing, where consumer interest has increased dramatically year on year.
It'll be the same name on the box, but it's kind of a different or evolved experience every time you bring it up.
So, as creating new mechanics or new features like freestyle, the right stick in NBA Live, that turns out to be the sweet spot for most consumers.
Right.
So try to do that in every one of our games. To come out with a sequel that doesn't have new feature IP is a formula for failure. Now, that being said, the reason that I mentioned that new IP, the criticism about new IP, isn't necessarily analytically based. I think there's a lot of emotional interest about new IP that doesn't exactly match the way consumers bet with their time and with their money. I play a lot of World of Warcraft. It's not clear to me that if World of Warcraft would have been called, World of
Orcs or something?
World of Orcs or World of Zeus,
that
as many of us play would have been playing.
Very cool. All right.